So if anybody who has a fully public Facebook profile, then you are allowing any company to see that information if you install their app without Facebook having checked the company's app for what it wants to do. But for most other things, they have to kind of ask, and you have to say yes or no to it. So actually, you should click on those and investigate a little bit more. So it's a big question of whether you should worry about your data going places. And because there's many times when you have installed these apps for a good reason and you get a better experience on something like Spotify. I don't want to pick particular ones, but you've installed an app because you want a functionality for that website, or you want to get a better experience, and it needs your data to do that well. But there's lots of other apps that want to do it for different reasons. So it becomes a question of which company or who has created the app, whether you trust that company to handle your data nicely or properly. Responsibly is a good word, yeah. Or whether you don't know anything about the company. So I would worry more about these small custom-made apps that individuals have produced or small companies produced, and we don't really know them. Whereas large companies, well-established companies, have got pretty solid data processing and data protection things put in place and would more likely behave properly. But not that you can fully trust large organisations or individuals in large organisations is a problem.
Probably the ironic thing is the large multinationals who are often depicted as the bogeyman have probably got all these policies in place and have to comply with whatever laws, and yet actually Joe blogs making an app in his bedroom, who knows what he's doing with your data.
Yeah, and whether or not they will sell your data on to other people, which is what is part of what has come up in the news lately. But there's four major types of thing they might ask for. One is attributes about the user, so information about you, which is kind of things like your email address, the city you live in, your relationship status, anything that you've chosen to give Facebook, like your birthday, which is somehow about you. They can kind of request that type of information. They might ask for information about your activities, so what do you like, what things do you like, your posts, who you've talked to, anything that you're doing on a regular basis on Facebook, your kind of activity behavior data.
Checking in and all this sort of stuff.
Exactly, yeah. This is a separate data to kind of instance data about you, who you are. This is kind of things you're doing. A third type of data is groups and activities, or like events that you're going to. So if you've said you're interested in an event, they kind of like that type of information. Or if you're part of a group, they'll actually see what types of groups those are and what they're about, if they can, depending on how private they are. Then the fourth type of permission they tend to ask for is to post on your behalf, which is the one that people most often notice. They go, oh, I'm fine with you accessing my data, but I don't want you to post on my Facebook on my behalf. So one thing that I personally do all the time is if there's an app that wants to do that, I set it so that only I can see those posts and my friends can't see those posts. So you can kind of control who can see it. But actually I skip over a whole bunch of things that I've just given it permission to.
When you first hear that it wants to post on your behalf, it sounds kind of big, not Big Brother, but it can sort of like, yeah, that's automation doing something for me that I might not want it to do.
Yeah.
And we're forgetting what it might be doing behind the scenes, I suppose, aren't we?
Yeah, you're like, oh, yeah, I don't want you to post on my behalf, but yeah, feel free to read all of my posts for the last 8 years. No problem there. For the ones where people have created those images that merge your face with someone else, those people tend to be kind of developers who are writing an algorithm to manipulate images or photographs, and they want to test their code on a large data set of images. And so they offer you a treat, which is to see yourself merged with a celebrity, or to see you merged with your partner in some united photo, and then they get to test their algorithm on loads and loads of images for all those people. So what technically happens then when you install one of these things, or when you give a website permission to use your login, is it tends to say, this app wants to access your information. This is the information that it wants to access. And you can choose to look at that in detail or not. You can just say yes, or you can look at it in detail. And then when you look at it in detail, if you choose to, it might say it wants to see your photos, yes or no. It wants to see your posts, yes or no. It wants to see your friends, yes or no. And there's some subsection of that which they need for the app to work. And there are many others that they might ask for which they don't necessarily need.
Do they tend to, I mean, I'm kind of guessing here, but do they tend to say you need to accept all of it or it won't work?
It varies a bit. So sometimes I've said no to certain types of data, and then it said, fair enough, as long as we have your pictures, we can do the picture merging thing. So if you're installing an app that's going to merge your picture or something, you have to at least give it that. And then it will probably say, we can't really install this without that permission. But some others, they've had to say to Facebook why they want that, but maybe they don't need it to function, so they might still install anyway. And so you can see which ones it needs and which ones it wants, and you should probably, if you're really conscious about this type of thing, untick all the ones that it just wants but doesn't necessarily need. The other thing that Facebook introduced recently is an anonymous login feature, so you can see what an app will do if you log in, but without giving it all of your data. So there's kind of like a chance to test it. But I've never used that. I just tend to freely give it all my information. And I'm feeling really bad about that now that I'm making this video. You can do several other things, like you can turn off the ability for all this to happen if you're really never going to install an app. But it will probably surprise you what apps you have installed if you log in. So I think a lot of people would log in, see that and go, oh yes, I don't want any of this. Just turn it all off, and then the next time they go to Spotify and log in with Facebook, they then can't do it, and they go, why can't I do it? It's because you've turned off everything, and Facebook tries to warn you about that, but it's hard to know the ramifications of doing it straight away.